And when they went outside, they got into a fist fight. No emotional control there.
These things you need to watch yourself as well as others too.
I'm talking here about you watching this in yourself to build your leadership capability. However, it is important to notice what might be going on in someone else, because good leaders also have good coaches. And, you know, I personally think that a lot of leadership development is helping people become more aware of what's really going on for them and helping them be more in alignment. Because when you're in alignment with what you say is important and what your priorities are, you become transparent and authentic. When there's a disconnect between what's really going on and how you're behaving, people see that inconsistency. You know, in his research at Stanford, Warren Bennis was one of the first people who isolated consistency as a key variable in being an effective leader. And this emotional self-awareness piece is very much that. People don't trust a leader that isn't consistent, even if he's consistently or she's consistently irritated doing something. At least they're consistent with it. When somebody is high and low, and 1 minute they're open and wanting to hear from you, and the next minute they're yelling at you or clamming up, it's very disconcerting. So, both. So here are the questions on emotional self-control. Let me again ask you to give yourself a 1 to 5 rating on each of those in your mind. And then ask yourself the question, how would other people rate me there? Observations? Does that make sense? Questions? They seem to fit what we're talking about.
Age helps.
That's it?
It seems like I was not so emotional self-control when I was younger compared to what I am now.
Okay. How the rest of you feel? Is that true? You?
I would agree with that. When I was in my early 20s to mid 20s, I was
Something about men and testosterone. Only kidding. For some people, it might be age related. There are other people who say that when you get older, you get more aches and pains. I remember my mother, you know, being much less patient when she got older than when she was younger. You know, I was a lot harder to be around when I was younger. You know, much more active and doing stuff. So.
In certain situations, even though you want to stay calm, but it's not that you can, and you because of the situation itself.
Yes. Yes. So just a quick example that I'd like to share with you. Some of you may know this example, but before I do, I had to have a joke for this one too. So many times when we are not in touch with our emotions and are not controlling them, it becomes the other people, not ourselves. So this is some research that was done by a guy I know, Sidney Finkelstein out of Yale, and he interviewed executives who did not succeed in organizations. In fact, each year he does the top 10 worst executives, worst CEOs, in terms of why they fail. And if Sidney were here with us today, I had the opportunity to talk with him about this, he would say to you that he could not believe in all these situations where he interviewed not only the executive but the people around them, how people did not hear feedback. People tried so hard to give Martha Stewart feedback before, you know, she broke SEC laws and got arrested in terms of how she ran the company. Dennis Kozlowski, Tyco, notorious for asking people to do all this work. And then they'd come in with all this analysis to help with decisions, And he would look at them and say, no, we're going to do this. Snap with his fingers. Unfortunately, he bought a $6,000 shower curtain and threw a $2 million party in Greece, Hercules, for his wife. And I think he's still in jail. So again, this pattern of lack of emotional self-awareness and inability to listen to feedback and manage the environment is big. A few more things. I like to say organizations are like fish, they rot from the head down. And these components of emotional self-awareness and control are a big part of emotional intelligence. And this is some emotional intelligence research that was done by the Haley. I don't want to read the slide to you, but there it is. I think it's significant that they assess about 85% of success deals with that. I see this with entrepreneurs a lot. You know, one of the things about entrepreneurs and that I've noticed personally, and many of them will admit to, they have their own companies because they want to control as much as they can their environment. They don't want to be at the effect of someone else. How many of you agree with that statement? And there's nothing wrong to want to take charge of your own destiny, as long as you're not using that to block what's really going on for you and how you project yourself into your environment. So this my way or the highway that some entrepreneurs fall into, because that's my company, can be a real problem. And it stems from what we're talking about.
One of the things we look at when people come underneath there is coachability.
I like my little hold the highway.
My way or the highway, that's right.
Right.
Does anybody recognize this scene? What movie is that from? Okay. And so what's Groundhog Day about? What's the theme of Groundhog Day?
Same day, over and over.
That's what happens if you don't get this big, big, big dynamic of leadership. You keep getting the same results. I don't know why my company went into the ground. I don't know why my best employees left. I don't know why my spouse ran off with somebody else, but it keeps repeating, right? So, the big question is, what's working for you? And unlike the CEOs in the study done and book done by Sidney Finkelstein, are you accepting the feedback? Feedback's tough. It's hard to hear things.
I was going to say, George Washington recently read a book about focusing on him, and one of the things he was credited with was that he wanted to know what was really going on. He really wanted feedback. He wanted he didn't want to hear, we're doing great. He wanted to hear we're starving.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. And Jack Wilson was very big on what is the real situation.
Well, and that was actually the story I started to tell you, and then I kind of get back to the slides and wanted to mention this because I'm not sure that I could display this level of emotional self-awareness, control, and also trying to contribute to the emotional well-being of the people he led. And the story is recounted in Good to Great. Jim Collins was at Stanford, and Admiral Stockdale, who was the highest-ranking officer ever captured during the Vietnam War, was there in residence studying philosophy of all things. So Collins interviews him just because it's Jim Stockdale and because of the resilience. He withstood being at the Hanoi Hilton, as it was called, for 8 years. But when he was captured, it was a real boon to the Viet Cong. And they wanted to put him on video immediately so that people could see that they were treating this high-ranking officer so well. When he found out that's what they were going to do, he took a chair, beat himself in the face so that he would be bruised and not videotaped. He also noticed that the men there were broken because at that time it was pretty much name, rank, and serial number. And so the torture accelerated, and they said things that maybe were not going to hurt anybody, but they went beyond that. So their self-esteem, their spirit wasn't there. So he figured out a way of looking at, like, when you get to this time in your torture, you can say this. When you get to this time, you can say this. Well, how is he going to tell them this, right? Because they're all locked up. So he figured out this Morris tap kind of tapping with you know, like a mop or a stick or whatever, and people got it, and they started communicating within prison that way. So as they talked about that, he was educating them on what he thought that they could do. He would periodically send messages to them. And on his 3rd anniversary there, the guys washing the floor tapped out, "We love you, Adam Stockdale." And what was really interesting is that Collins said to Stockdale, "You know, I know how your story ends, you made it out, but I get so depressed when I read about this. How did you withstand this? How could you have put up with this and helped everyone else?" And he said, "Well, I never gave up faith. Never. However, I faced the brutal facts. I faced the brutal facts." And so Collins goes, "Well, who didn't make it?" He goes, "Oh, that's easy. The people who were excessively optimistic." Collins goes, "Really? Why?" He said, "Because they'd say, oh, we'll be out by Christmas, we'll be out by New Year, we'll be out in the spring." And when those deadlines that they put in there didn't happen, they were crestfallen, they became discouraged. So his suggestion, and it's difficult to do, is to keep that faith, but as all of this is going on, the importance of facing the brutal facts. So that's the way that emotional self-awareness and control of emotions applies at a higher level to the people you lead. Because you're not just looking at your own under even dire circumstances, you're thinking about how can I make things better in a constructive way, emotionally, for the people I'm leading. So I just want to say, we often hear the term, our greatest strengths, our greatest weakness. Have you heard that? Yes. So, you know, these attributes that we have when we're at our best are not always that way. So if I'm not eating something and I'm hungry and cranky, that's going to affect how I am. Or if I'm working long hours, doing the entrepreneurial thing, just do what it takes, stop taking care of my body, myself, my family, and just pedal to the metal until we get this funding or whatever it is. Confidence can erode and become a sense of infallibility. In fact, that same term, sense of infallibility, is what Sidney used to describe Martha Stewart. Quickness becomes over-hastiness. Sharp wit can be seen as abrasive, dedication, you're getting it, workaholism. Oh, I'm dedicated. Are you? Or are you a workaholic? Are you so unidimensional now, you're not helping anybody, not even your company? Control becomes inflexibility. Perseverance becomes resistance to change. Charm can become manipulation. All things to watch in our studies. So, Will Rogers once said, even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. This particular dimension of leadership, emotional self-awareness, is something that's really important to pay attention to, and also really important to exercise, like a muscle. So you see yourself getting tense, you see yourself getting impatient. What do? You know, there's the take the deep breath. One of the things I did with the CEO of the talent, we had to break the response. So when he wanted to tap, he would write a word that was coming to mind. Things like shut up, because he didn't want to hear anybody else, right? Shut up. And then after you write the word, if you still want to tap, you can, right? Or you make a little line before you do. And so, you know, some of this stuff really, really does take work. Questions, comments on that? So let's take a moment then to talk about branding. And branding classically is the promise you make your customer. The element of branding I'm talking about here is part of that, but it starts with you, because it's important for you to have clarity about what your mission, values, and vision are in order for you to attract the customers that you're looking at. So if a company, especially a startup, has no clue about its own identity, being able to attract customers to what you do, especially long term, becomes more difficult. Unless you have something that's so prized that people are going to keep buying it. And my experience of that is that over time you get competitors and other people that want to buy from somebody else because they don't particularly enjoy interacting with your company. How many of you have a mission, vision, values for your company? Oh, good. I'll talk a little bit about that. So we can talk a little bit about that. So the big questions here, if you're a one-person company or if you don't run your own company, it's very important to ask yourself, who am I? Why do I exist? In the context of what is enlivening for me? What's purposeful for me? What feels good when I do it? And what really does not feel on target? And as an organization, why does the organization exist in a broader sense? What are my core values? What do we stand for? What are those things that I won't compromise for financial gain? Where do we see ourselves going? What?
He's an attorney, that was doesn't count.
I was going to say, I was
Oh. Where do I see myself going? Where do I see our organization going? That's the vision question. You don't have the vision and you can't break it down and show the rest of the organization how they relate to the vision. So many entrepreneurs I talk to say, oh, my vision's simple. I want to be at 100 million in 10 years. I'm like, oh, great. How motivating is that for the people who work for you? They don't have any share in your company. I have a slide I can bring it today. It's a needle and it says 100,000 in billings per year, doctor self-centered. Do you want to go to that doctor? Maybe he needs the billings, but that's not an inspiring vision. And then lastly, what will I or we offer our customers? Most people, many people don't really know who their target customer is. So that's a problem, because if you're going to really be in touch with your customer, in touch with yourself, but then what are their needs? And which of those needs or combination of needs are you going to be meeting? So I'm going to share with you a couple of quick mission statements that make sense. Did you know that this was Google's? Isn't this great? This says exactly what they started out doing, to organize the world's information. So this has to slip off your tongue when you communicate to people. And the biggest mistake I see people make when it comes to talking about what the mission of their company or the mission of their initiative is that it's way too long. Way too long. Oh, here, let me show you. You can read it. That's inspiring, isn't it? This is a client, a guy I worked with for quite a long time. Tom Wallace is a serial entrepreneur in town. And his current company is Vector Learning. And this is their mission. They do online education. Another client of ours, Digital Hands. And everybody walks around and says, we make tech too. Here's some examples of personal mission statements. People who might have a solo practice or just, work with an organization and still, it's important to have this. This is a person who does a lot in interior decoration. This is someone that has started a small sustainability company. Here's an IP. Something's happening, it's blinking a little bit, I'm not sure what that's about. So the mission answers these big philosophical questions in a very practical way. Self-branding is knowing yourself, and I would suggest to you that you might go back and take a look at what does my mission say, and is it really accurate, or am I trying to just take words and put something on a business plan? Anybody want to share their mission? Yes.
Well, like we say, we have the technology that improves air quality, indoor air services, transforms the air we breathe.
Beautiful. Transforms the air we breathe. Transforms the clothes that we wear.
I was going to make a comment that sometimes companies have to go through a transformation because the philosophy or the mission they have, it doesn't bring the revenue. Like Holiday, for example, I know, or trying to think of another company, Holiday Inn. They were like at a certain, or they were ascending, and then they reached a plateau, and then they just, I know Sears at one point, they just couldn't compete effectively, so they have to go some kind of transformation, and I believe this is also true for, or maybe even more true, for smaller companies to keep transforming until you find the niche.
Sure. And so your mission, Hercules, needs to be big enough that as you're transforming, that it still fits. Like when the original mission statement for Disney was to bring happiness to millions. Now, if Walt Disney said the mission was to bring animation to kids, see how limiting that would be in terms of the product or service or offering? So today we're not going to be covering all the important stuff, and I do a lot of strategic planning, facilitation, so I know the importance of that part. But what I notice is a lot of entrepreneurs miss this bigger stuff, and it comes back to bite them.
I'll make a comment on that. When Disney came to Florida, because the citrus industry was big,
Right?
and Lakeland was the biggest place for citrus, he went to Lakeland first. And he asked him to get us, a lot of, space there, land to build. Said, we have a good industry here, and we go somewhere else. And of course now, Orlando accelerated its growth.
Right.
And Lakeland is still in the same place.
Exactly. Yeah, we will.